So how come we don't know about this? When you went to get help and you were told you would have to wait to go publicly, how long was that going to be? Did they give you a time frame?
They couldn't even give me a time frame. So there's a scheme. It's called the EU Cross Border Directive. It's a European scheme and it's run and managed by the HSE. And as an Irish citizen, as a European citizen, I was entitled, as are you and every other Irish person, once you have a PPSI number and you work and live in Ireland, with an address in Ireland, you're entitled to travel anywhere in Europe to have surgery or a procedure carried out under this scheme called the Cross Border Directive. There's a couple of rules and regulations to it. Two main ones that will affect people which affected me was the HSE won't refund you your costs of flight and accommodation, so you have to bear the costs of them yourself, but they will cover you for all your surgical and clinical costs when you're away. You do have to pay for it yourself up front, and then you apply for a reimbursement from the HSE.
And the hospital facilities in Spain are phenomenal for their public patients. Do they not have the waiting list that we have?
No, so, well, you are in a private hospital in Spain, but the Spain on the whole is number 3 in Europe from a healthcare system. They're a fantastic healthcare system in Spain. And that's one.
And where does Ireland rank?
25th.
Out of how many countries?
27.
Paul, it's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you very much, Laura. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, I wanted to bring you on because I found your story very interesting, just from the point of view that there may be a lot of people out there who find themselves in a similar situation. Well, actually, we know there are, because there's like how many thousands of people on the waiting list?
842,000 people currently on a waiting list for procedures in Ireland.
Okay. So can you tell me a little bit about what happened to you and where it's brought you today?
Yeah, so a little bit of backstory to me. I'm a graphic artist by trade. I had my own printing, design and printing company for about 10 years. I had a business partner. We decided to go our separate ways just after 10 years together. It was the right thing to do. We did have our private health insurance up until we split up. And then when we split up, I don't know whether it was me or him, or probably me, that didn't make the payments or whatever. So when I went back to my private health insurance, they said no, I'd lapsed 3 or 4 payments and I'd have to start all over again. I would have to be ailment free for 18 months and my premium would increase, yada yada. So because I was starting up on my own again, I just left it because I was young enough and felt I was healthy enough and I didn't really need it. I'd been paying into it for probably 10, 12 years before that and hadn't really used it at all. And then typically about a year and a half later, I injured my back. Now, I probably didn't look after my back growing up most of the time. And working with signage and lifting rolls onto machines and stuff, I definitely didn't look after my back. And I ended up having a bulging disc L4, L5. So down low in the back area, which was bulging and sitting out on my sciatic nerve, which was giving me chronic pain down my leg and numbness in my foot and toes. And when I went to get help, unfortunately, I had no health insurance. So I had to try and go publicly. I couldn't get any help publicly because it was just the beginning of COVID. I did also try privately. I tried the Santry Sports Clinic, but that was taken over by a COVID clinic as well. So I was a bit lost. I was at home. I was sleeping on the floor beside the bed for about 5 months. I was absolutely eating concoctions of different painkillers and muscle relaxants to try and get me through for when I could work. Couldn't really play with the kids, couldn't play with the dogs, couldn't go to work, couldn't lift stuff. And a couple of dark times, I have to say, lying there going, how am I going to get money to pay the mortgage? So it was actually my wife put me in contact with Chris, who my saviour, I have to say. She did some advertising for him because he is the man that brings people overseas to have new hips and knees and cataracts. And at the time, that's all she thought he did, was just hips, knees and cataracts. But when she talked to him about me, it turns out that he could look after you for any surgery.
Okay. And when you went to get When you went to get help and you were told you would have to wait to go publicly, how long was that going to be? Did they give you a time frame?
They couldn't even give me a time frame. COVID was there, to absolutely no idea.
Okay.
Absolutely no idea. The only place I could go was back to the GP, and all he kept giving me was painkillers and muscle relaxants and Xanax. There's three of them. There was three different tablets I took. I actually still have a bit of a stomach problem from taking them.
The anti-inflammatories would have caused.
Yeah, and that sort of little tickle in my throat is from that as well. You know.
Okay, and then did you see a private? Could you have been seen privately, and how much would that have cost?
I couldn't be seen at the time. COVID really prevented me from going privately more than anything else. But the cost as well was exorbitant. So I was being quoted prices from 12,000 to 18,000 euro to be looked at. What they reckoned I needed, and what I did have in the end, was a microdiscectomy, and that was the cost of it here in Ireland, privately.
Okay, so then you met Chris,
yeah. So my wife put me in contact with Chris. Again, I hear this story quite often now from our own patients, but I rang Chris, had a chat with him, told him what was wrong, and he said, book your flights, I'll see you on Tuesday. And that was a 25-minute conversation, and I sat back and I was going, is this really happening? Am I going to get fixed? Now, there was a part of me that I didn't want back surgery. I used to joke to people and say, if Tiger Woods, the surgeon, wasn't coming over, I wasn't going to ever get back surgery. But Chris really sort of allayed all my fears, explained that, it's so common now, it's an easy operation, it's definitely the way. You're only kicking the can down the road by trying to treat it with painkillers and physio. Like, I went to physio. I couldn't tell you how much money I spent on physiotherapists and chiropractors, and I literally tried everything.
Well, I remember your prescriptions coming into the pharmacy as well, so you were on a lot of drugs.
Yeah. So to take it from there, then Chris explained to me, so there's a scheme. It's called the EU Cross Border Directive. It's a European scheme, and it's run and managed by the HSE. And as an Irish citizen, as a European citizen, I was entitled, as are you and every other Irish person, once you have a PPSI number and you work and live in Ireland, with an address in Ireland, you are entitled to travel anywhere in Europe to have surgery or a procedure carried out under this scheme called the Cross Border Directive. There's a couple of rules and regulations to it. Two main ones that will affect people which affected me, was the HSE won't refund you your costs of flight and accommodation, so you have to bear the costs of them yourself. But they will cover you for all your surgical and clinical costs when you're away. You do have to pay for it yourself up front, and then you apply for a reimbursement from the HSE.
So how come we don't know about this?
I don't really know. It's obviously something we're trying to promote. The fuller story is, as you know, Laura, I now work for this company after travelling with Chris, having my operation. I had my operation on the 5th of November, I think 2019, and I was back playing golf on the 1st of January.
And just by way of background, to be really open and honest, Paul is a pal of mine, because Paul gave me my beautiful dog, Carlo, because his two dogs birthed are their mum and dad. And I know Paul's wife, and that's why Paul's on. So that's just to be open about our relationship too. And that's how we know each other, and that's how I came
Bonded by boxers.
Oh my goodness. And that's how I came to know about you. And I remember Coach, who's Paul's wife, telling me that you were going abroad to get this surgery.
Spain, yeah.
And I remember thinking, he's mad in the head.
Yeah.
Because God knows, does he even know where he's going? Is he going to just be rinky-dinked up and come home? And then, we hear these horror stories. So talk me through how it happens.
Okay.
Please.
So I'll talk to you about myself, or maybe I'll talk about, a common one for people. So the company is called Healthcare Abroad. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's the company I work for.
Are there a few of these companies, or is it?
There are one or two, but obviously we're the very, very
it goes to the same, but they have you working for them.
We have a huge amount of experience. Chris has been in the medical game for 35 years. We have a fantastic team. We have about 40 people working for us between Ireland and Spain. So what generally happens is we do a bit of advertising on TV, radio. Mostly we get it through Google AdWords, people searching Healthcare Abroad on Google. So a person would call our number. One of the team will pick it up. And say for argument's sake, an easy one is a hip. Hip and knee are very, very common for people because the waiting lists for hips and knees are 3 to 5 years, depending on what part of the country you're in. And that's after you actually get to see a consultant. And you won't get to see a consultant for him to tell you that you need a knee for anything up to 6 to 8 months. So you could be looking at 5 years, needing a hip on a stick, taking painkillers. And the cohort of most of these people are between 60 and 80 years of age. So their life is completely debilitated. So what happens is, say for argument's sake, say you, Laura, I know you don't need a hip just yet. Say you called me and you needed a hip.
Don't you dare say just yet. Never. Yet. I'm working on it. I exercise so much to prevent all this.
So you'd call me up and we'd have a chat. I'd explain everything to you. I'd have to get you to sign a consent form. Mm-hmm. A consent form needs to be signed from GDPR point of view. And that allows me then not only to engage with yourself, but it allows me to engage with your GP. It allows me to engage with your credit union, because we do a full package of looking after you. Once you're up on our system, we're fully digitized. Everything we do is online, all secure. You're our patient. So we'll sit down and say, okay, you're looking for a hip. When would you like to travel? Okay, we'll pick a time when you want to travel. There's no waiting lists in the hospitals that we're going to bring you to. We represent 85 private hospitals across Europe, mostly in Spain. We do have other hospitals in different regions of Europe for different disciplines. Okay, for hips, we bring people to Denia in Spain, which is an hour north of Alicante. So what would happen is you pick a date. What we'd do is we would engage with your GP then. We would get all medical history relevant to your hip, any medication you might be on. We'd also get some scans, images, MRIs. All that information then is part of your file, and we send that to your consultant surgeon in Spain. So when you arrive out there, he has a much better picture of you. You're not walking through the door green. He knows more about you before you get there. Most of the people that would need a hip or a knee in our business would require a credit union loan. Again, we engage with a credit union loan. Now, a person does have to apply for the loan themselves. It is a personal loan, but we just give some support documents to the credit union. We explain to the credit union about the reimbursement, how long it's going to take, how much it's going to cost, and different bits and pieces that the credit union require as well. Once you have your loan secure and you have your date picked, you book your flights. You have to book your flights. We, however, book your hotel for you because we have partnerships with hotels very close to all our hospitals. So we get a rate, really good rate for our hotels year long. You arrive in Alicante in Spain. We have a team of drivers and carers on the ground in Spain. They will pick you up at the airport, and a companion or a family member, whoever wants to travel with you. They will bring you from the airport to your hotel. We'll have the hotel booked. You go in, check in, what have you. The hotels are anything from €60 per night with breakfast to €110 per night with breakfast. So really, really good prices. That's all year round. Once you arrive there, you will have an orientation meeting with one of the team. They'll explain to you the week ahead what's going to happen. On the Monday morning, you will have your consultation with your consultant. He'll obviously have your scans and images already sent to him. He'll sit down, he'll go through the process, what he's going to do, what operation he's going to have, what prosthetic he's going to use, everything. On the Tuesday, you will have your pre-op, and on the Wednesday, you will be admitted for your operation. Depending on your recovery, because it's all patient-led, you could be in hospital for from 3 to 5 days. It's in a private hospital. You have your own private room, with your own private bathroom. It's like a little hotel suite. There's even a couch there that turns into a bed if your companion or family member wants to stay a couple of nights with you. The hospital facilities in Spain are phenomenal.
Are the hospital facilities in Spain phenomenal for their public patients? Do they not have the waiting list that we have?
No. So, well, you are in a private hospital in Spain, but the Spain on the whole is number 3 in Europe from a healthcare system. They're fantastic healthcare system in Spain. And that's one.
And where does Ireland rank?
25th.
Out of how many countries?
27.
Okay.
But that's the main reason why we use Spain, is because the health system is so well run, so well managed. And the other reason is it's really accessible for Irish patients. Alicante is an hour and a half flight. You can fly out Kerry, Cork, Shannon, Knock, Dublin, Belfast. So really, really accessible. And Ryanair fly all year round, so it's very, very cheap as well. So you're in hospital then for up till the Sunday. Then you're discharged for certain types of operations. We give different packages. For hip and knees, we also offer you get 10 physiotherapy sessions after your operation, and those physiotherapy sessions happen in the hospital where you've had your surgery. So the physio team are liaising with the surgical team, so everyone's talking to each other, and it's hugely beneficial the first few days after your surgery to have physio. Like, you don't actually get that in the Beacon or the Blackrock Clinic or any of the clinics here in Ireland.
How much does this roughly cost? Like, how much of a credit union loan are you talking about that people normally have to get?
So overall, a hip and knee, there's a €200 difference between a hip and a knee. For a hip, it's €12,395 all in. Now, that does not cover your flights and accommodation. That's for all your clinical and surgical costs. So your consultation fee is €165. That's fully reimbursed by the HSE. Your operation or your surgical costs are 11,500 for a hip, 11,700 for a knee. That's 100% refunded by the HSE. And then the physiotherapy sessions are €73 each. We do 10 of them. That's €730. That's 100% refunded by the HSE. So overall, all them calculated together is 12,595 and 12,395, and you get back 12,595 or 12,395.
And how long does it take for you to get that back?
That's about 16 weeks currently.
Okay.
About 16 weeks. Now, sometimes you can be lucky you get it in 12. You know, it really depends on staff, and it's all run and managed by the HSE. That's another thing that people don't. There's two really big things that people, when they hear about these schemes, don't realise. It's an EU law, makes it an Irish statute law, but it's run and managed by the HSE in St. Canice's in Kilkenny, okay? So you never leave the care of the HSE. Some people think, oh my goodness, I'm going to Spain, it's a foreign country, I'll come back and no one will help me. You have never left the care of the HSE. You are always under their umbrella. They're paying for your surgery, you're their patient, you never leave that care.
And are the HSE happy to do this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So why isn't it being promoted more?
I don't know. I don't know why it's not being promoted. I think it's because it's European law. I know politicians don't speak about it. I don't think even a lot of politicians know about it. Yeah. I've had Roisin Shortall on the radio with me on drive time on RTE taking my head off because she said we're making patients go to Spain. We don't make people go anywhere. This is a medical option for you.
Yeah.
We know not everyone wants to travel. Not everyone can travel. Some people are too old or they've never travelled outside the country at all. But there is an option for everyone else. And the more people that we can take away and help, we're actually reducing the waiting list as well. So those people that can't travel have a chance to get looked at and fixed earlier. And Julia, just to go back about that other note, people think you have to be on a waiting list. You do not. People think, have to be on a waiting list for surgery. It's a referral-led scheme, which means all you need is a letter from your GP to say Laura needs a new hip or a new knee or whatever the case may be.
Okay.
Now, there are different operations obviously available. Well, actually, any operation or surgical or surgery that you can have in Ireland is available under this scheme. So it's not just knees and hips, it's backs, cataracts, anything.
And this is brought in by the EU so that every citizen in Europe has a choice,
has an option,
and has the same healthcare. Technically speaking, the same healthcare.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's generally what it was. It was to equalise healthcare across Europe. That was the whole idea of it, especially from a public point of view.
And what other countries are doing this as well as Ireland? As in, like, what other countries are going to the likes of Spain to get this done?
So it was set up in 2014.
Right.
It was the first year it was set up. Now, it did take Europe and the politicians a lot of years to put it together and organise it and agree all the terms and terms of reference and stuff in it. In 2014, 7 Irish people travelled under this Cross Border Directive scheme. Mm-hmm. And 30,000 Danish people travelled under it.
Okay.
It's a bit, I don't know, I think it's a bit of a, an island attitude towards it. The Europeans are much better at just driving over the border and getting and having surgery. There's a huge amount of Dutch people go to Spain because Spain is a better healthcare system than Holland. So they'll just drive down and have it. The hospitals, so as I said, we represent 85 private hospitals. They're actually building purpose-built hospitals. That one in Denia was nicknamed the Irish Hospital in the Sun last year because it's the HCB group that own it, okay? They build them specifically for cross-border patients. So the only people in this hospital are Irish people and Dutch people.
Okay.
You know? And from the point of view, just going back to, say, your case study there, when you arrive in the hotel with us, we look after everything for you. So we bring you back and forth to all your appointments. As I said, we have the minibuses and we have the drivers on the ground. We bring you back to your for all your physiotherapies, everything back and forth, up and down to the hospital. And when you're finished, we drop you back to the airport. And then that's sort of when the work starts for us. We have to gather all the information. And because it's the HSE, there's quite a body of work
I can imagine.
required. So we do all that. Obviously, we're doing it for 50, 60 patients per week. So that's why we have a good team and we have a good CRM system that looks after it as well. We gather all that information. We put it into a file and we send it back to the HSE. And that's why we guarantee you'll get your refund. You could do this on your own, Laura. Okay, you could say, I'm going to use the scheme and I'm going to go. However, we don't charge you for our services. Okay, and we don't charge the HSE for our services. How we make our money is we represent 85 private hospitals. So we're like their sales and marketing team.
Okay.
So we're bringing them people so they pay us. Okay. If you did this yourself, there are so many different pitfalls where you might not dot your T or cross your I, as they say, and you'll make a mistake and you won't get the refund from the HSE. Because we have systems, processes and systems in place, we know exactly what we need, what's required, what to give them, and we guarantee you'll get your refund.
And the post-operative care now, you said that about the physiotherapy and that. Roughly, so how long does someone stay post-operatively in the other country, in Spain? So
for a knee, again, it's sort of nearly like a little package. For a knee and a hip, it's 2 weeks. Same for bariatric. We do a lot of bariatric surgery over there. We follow the Galway Loughrea program, which is a great program here in Ireland, where we only do a gastric sleeve and a bypass. Very unlike Turkey, where people go in and they're there for 2 or 3 days, and it's seriously a bit of a cattle mart. There's been quite a few deaths there as well.
Well, that's the fear now, and that's when Coach told me you were going over. I knew nothing about it, and all I had ever heard, because I suppose all we ever hear is the horror stories. We don't hear these good news stories.
Good ones, yeah.
So you do hear about people coming back from Turkey, and not having a great time.
Lithuanian stuff are not very good. It's not regulated. The surgeons aren't regulated.
So the HSE don't deal with Turkey, do they not?
No, well, they will pay out for it. The HSE will pay out for it.
Oh, okay.
It's in your own hands where you go to.
Okay.
Our surgeons have all been accredited. They've all met the criteria required by the HSE. And as well as that, for bariatric surgery, as I said, we follow the Galway Loughrea program, which if you decided that you wanted to have bariatric surgery, be it a gastric sleeve or a bypass, we get a psych assessment. So you have an hour, 2 hour session with Donald, our psychiatrist. He's really helping you getting your mind into the right place for going through this, because it's not just about getting a sleeve and then you're going to lose the weight. There's an awful lot more going on with people. We also have a dietitian. The dietitian stays with you 3 weeks before your operation, and she stays with you 3 weeks after your operation to advise you and help you. So it's a full program, and it's hugely successful for people who obviously need to have weight loss.
And you mentioned to me as well that they do endometriosis surgery and everything.
That's correct, yeah. So we're always adding to our hospitals. As I said, this time 2 years ago, we only had 40 hospitals. We now have 85. So we're always growing and building. We're always trying to find, centres of excellence for different types of surgery required. And we have one in Bucharest, and it's going really, really well. We have one for Lyme disease as well in Germany. But yes, endometriosis, huge issue and problem. As you know, women's health in Ireland is appalling. And we have a phenomenal setup now with Bucharest to help women in endometriosis.
Can I just ask you, with that endometriosis, how does a lady get referred? Because the way with endometriosis, in order for it to be picked up, does she not need the consultant
the way it works? So you don't need a consultant. It's still back to your referral letter. Okay. And endometriosis, the pathway is a little different, as in you do have to get diagnosed there. So you don't have a diagnosis before you leave. So if you can imagine, we know you need a hip before you leave Ireland. If you're an endometriosis patient, we're not 100% sure it's endometriosis because you do not get diagnosed, because you can't in Ireland. They can't diagnose it here properly.
Well, it takes a long time for it to happen.
Okay, so we have in our centre in Bucharest, we have a specialist MRI. People that have a way of diagnosing it, and they'll do that there. So your pathway is a little different there, because you have 4 different stages of endometriosis. Depending on what stage you are, there's obviously a different cost associated with it. But when you arrive into Bucharest, That's the first thing we do, is diagnostics. You get your diagnostics done, and then your pathway is decided of what your treatment needs to be.
So if you're displaying symptoms of a woman that may or may have endometriosis, you get a referral letter from your GP, and that's how that works.
And that's
okay.
How it works, yeah.
I just think it's amazing that people don't know about it.
Yeah. No, it is. As I said, I don't know why. From a politician's point of view, I'm presuming they can't gain any sort of political gain from it, because it's not it's an Irish statute law, but it's a European law, so they can't touch it.
Is it an Irish solution to an Irish problem? One of those?
Maybe, yeah. But they see they can't do anything to it. Like, they can't even say we're only spending 10 million on this year. There's no cap on it. It's a European law, so they don't talk. I don't think a lot of people know about it. I still get GPs that haven't heard about it. I still get, as I said, I've had politicians giving out to me about it.
Well, I think it is because there are the horror stories as well that people don't know go to get the proper
horror stories. The horror stories aren't from Europe, really. You do hear them from the likes of Turkey and Lithuania and stuff. But no offense, I was talking earlier on. My own dad was taken into hospital this weekend. I have my two sisters. One is a retired nurse. The other one's still a nurse at the moment. And people say, going to Spain, it's a foreign country. Spain is not foreign whatsoever. It's just not. Now, I know I can say that because I've been back and forth, obviously, through working with healthcare abroad and what have you. But their second language is English. So you go over there, you have a hospital liaison officer. We have Arthur. He speaks 6 languages. He's Dutch. He has English, Spanish. They're there with you all the time. Most of the surgeons there have trained in America, so they all speak English. The nurses can be 50-50, but again, 50-50 is they'll have basic English to get by for what's required. And most of them have even more than that, because English is Spanish's second language. You're going to a really high-class healthcare system. It's a private hospitals. They're phenomenal. It's the way it should be run. If you have an appointment at 9 o'clock in the morning, your appointment will be at 9 o'clock in the morning and you'll be finished at 9:40 in the morning. It's all run. It's all done online. It's all digitized. It's out of this world. And not to be careless with my words or to hurt anyone's feelings, but as I said, my dad was taken into hospital over the weekend, and I had more trouble speaking to someone in the hospital in Ireland, in Dublin, than I did in Spain, because you have 27 different nationalities. There's so many different nationalities that it was actually a struggle to find someone who could actually speak English and help.
Well, it's difficult
we need them.
Of course, yeah.
I'm not taking that away, and I don't mean to be cruel, but honestly, it was a horrific weekend with my dad.
What happened?
My dad is 86. He has dementia, unfortunately. It's been a tough couple of years, and he started to vomit some blood on Saturday morning with my mom, so we had to get an ambulance. Got an ambulance at 11 o'clock on Saturday morning up to Tala Hospital, and I got seen at 5:30 in the morning. First time to talk to a doctor, 5:30 in the morning on the Sunday morning, and he eventually got a bed today in the hospital at 4:30. So he's been on a trolley since...
So today's Monday?
Yeah.
Okay. How long has he been on a trolley for?
Since 11 o'clock Saturday morning.
Okay.
And from what I gather from being up there, I was up there the whole night, Saturday night. He was a lucky one because there was people there 26 hours at that stage. They were there on Friday. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to the next wannabe politician or minister that knocks at the door looking for a vote, because I couldn't believe what I witnessed up there. And honestly, I have nothing but respect for all the doctors and nurses. I actually don't know how they walk into that on a daily basis.
I have so many friends that are nurses or doctors, and many of them work in the ED or in, acute care. Yeah. And it's very difficult for them because the infrastructure isn't there either.
Nope.
And there's the staffing issues too. And then, what was a Saturday night, was it? So your typical Saturday night, what?
Car crashes, fights, great. And that's all happening around you, even though, so because we went in by ambulance, we got in behind, the front desk of A&E. So outside A&E is pretty fun, if fun is the right word. But when you get in behind, you think, okay, it's going to be a bit calmer in there. And it was twice as bad in the house. I was stepping over bodies. My dad was up against the wall on a trolley, as I said, from the whole, till today, till he got me out today. And there's no fault of the nurses or doctors. They're fantastic. They did the very best they could, They just don't have the resources. They don't have the beds. They don't have the capacity.
And there's people going to the emergency department too that don't need to go.
Oh, 100%,
you know.
100%, yeah. There's no primary care. Where do you go if you get hurt on a Saturday or Sunday? Like I was sort of joking with Jerry on. A man walked in. He had stood on some glass. He had to get in the bus to the emergency department because he had a splinter of glass in his heel. And I was very close to just telling him, I'll up there and I'll get a tweezers and I'll pull it out myself. Man lived alone. He'd nowhere else to go.
Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah. So look, we do have problems here. We're not going to solve them, but what we can do is we can 100% help people that are at home in pain. I have so many good news stories. You might see some of our stories, and we do a lot of work. Greg, who works for us, puts up a lot of stories in local magazines and newspapers around the country, like the Sligo Gazette and stuff. You'll see stories, good news stories of people who've come over and had operations and stuff,
And can you just list off the types of operations that you can help people to get? Because you've mentioned hip, knee. So joint replacements.
The most common ones are cataracts, okay?
Okay.
Cataracts, hips, knees, back surgery are probably the most common. Got a couple of shoulder surgeries the last couple of months. We also do heart surgery. We have a great cardiovascular team in a hospital in Madrid. We do varicose veins now. We don't do stripping anymore. We have a new system over in Spain that you can have that done without the stripping. It's done by laser, and you can fly a couple of days after having it. But there's not one or none surgery. Once the surgery is available in Ireland under the EU law, you're entitled to have that in a hospital in Europe.
But plastic surgery, such as aesthetic surgery, isn't.
That's cosmetics not covered.
Okay.
No, cosmetics not covered.
Okay. I suppose that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the follow-up care when someone is back in Ireland, like, how does it work? They come back.
So generally, generally for hips and knees, it's just about recovery and physio. Most of them will have their stitches out by the time they come home. If not, it's the same thing. You go back down to your GP, or you go back into one of the clinics around and you get your stitches out. As I said, you never leave the care of the HSE, so you're never outside the system. And from our point of view, all your medical notes and all your documentation and all your medical history from the hospital in Spain is also sent back to your GP. So that's all given back to you. That's part of your file is your medical history. So all that information goes back there as well.
And what about physio follow-up here then? Is that back into the public system where they could be waiting?
Yeah, it could be, yeah.
So they may have to avail of that privately?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dependent. Now, in fairness, Sergio and Maria, our team, they give them a good pack when they're leaving home or when they're leaving the hospital about what they should do. We also advise our patients on the last couple of days, if they have a family member or companion with them, just to video what they're doing on their phone. Because I know I've done it for years. I went to a physio, paid him €65 and went home and done absolutely nothing.
Actually, we all do that.
And given them another €65 and wondered why it's not working,
Give it out.
Yeah.
Give me the wrong exercise.
I'm giving you another €65 and my leg is still sore.
Yeah,
but, that's common sense stuff. You have to start doing the exercises. You have to do what you've been told by the surgeon when you leave. Same for bariatric surgery. There's certain things you can't do.
Okay.
But all that is given to you. We do a fit to fly scheme as well. So the surgeon will see you before you fly home and you'll be given a cert that you're okay to fly. So it's all very, very safe.
Because of the DVTs and stuff like that as well. Okay. DVTs being deep vein thrombosis, which people can be more susceptible to once they've gone under general anaesthetic.
Yeah. So, so that's generally how it works, and that's generally how it sort of saved me. And I can't praise it enough. As you know, once I come out the other side, I asked Chris to get involved. And
did you? Is that how it happened?
Yeah, so that's how it happened. Yeah, so it took a year or two. He was doing a few bits, and then I was doing a few bits in our paths. I always kept in touch with him and was helping him out in a few bits, printing stuff actually.
Okay.
And then he just said one day that he needed someone, and I loved it. I still do. I'm actually very passionate about it. I think to be able to help people is amazing. I still have people that ring me that I've helped a year or two ago. A lot of people keep in touch, so I am very, very passionate about it. And when he said it to me, I absolutely jumped on it. I closed up my signage and printing company, sold everything off, and haven't looked back. Yeah.
And do you physically bring the people over, or do they go over themselves?
So generally what we do, because we're sort of little hubs around the country, we have someone that will meet them in Dublin or airport, or Knock or Cork or Kerry airport, give them a few documents, say hello, make sure people think it's a scam. That's another thing. People think this is too good to be true. And that's another Irishism. If you give someone a solution to a problem, they think, no, this can't be true. Someone's going to take their money. I remember there was a farmer lady from down in Clonmel, and she badly needed her knee done. She was working on a farm, small farm with her husband, and she couldn't cope. She couldn't do it. She found us, got in touch. I don't know if it's real. Now, there's different ways you can pay for the procedure. You can just bring the money, as in put on a card and pay as you go over there. Now, we do have different pathways with the credit union and the HSE now that make it a bit easier for documentation wise and also safer. So generally, when you go in and apply for the loan and you're successful, you have to go through the credit assessments and protocols for the loan. The credit union will pay directly an EFT to the hospital in Spain. Okay, we give all the documentation for that to the credit union, all the references, your hospital number and what have you. Then we get you to sign a document and we get some information off the credit union as to what account the money goes back into. That goes into the HSE as part of your application for your refund. And then when the HSE make the refund, they just pay directly back into the credit union. So it's all safe, traceable and transparent. No third parties have access to funds. We don't charge anyone, so we never ask for funds off our patients. So the money literally goes from the credit union to the hospital, from the HSE to the credit union.
And why is it the credit? Do you only deal with credit unions, or would you deal with banks? Jesus, Bank of Ireland at the minute. Oh my goodness, I have no problem saying that I started out my business over a year ago, and I'm dealing with Bank of Ireland, and oh my God, it is awful. The customer service is just not there. They're obviously not making their money from.
I don't think they want
deposit.
They don't want to deal with customers.
But it's actually
taking everyone out of the branches, and it's all.
And then you're online and you're waiting for ages on a phone.
No, banks aren't really interested in us because generally they can't make enough money out of it. But to be honest with you, we'd be lost. And I must actually huge thumbs up and thanks to the credit unions.
Oh, they're great, aren't they?
Unbelievable. And again, they should be very proud because they've helped so many people. Obviously, a credit union is part of the community. They're there to help the community. They're helping so many patients get access to funds. If it wasn't for the credit union, like the cohort of people that we bring don't have money in the bank. They don't have, obviously, health insurance to get it done. So they're vulnerable. They're older, vulnerable people, like you said earlier on, worked hard all their life and now they're in a bit of trouble and they've nowhere to turn. And the credit union, to their credit, lend the money to them. Maximum they're going to have it for 16 weeks. So a credit union or a bank, they're not going to make that much money out. They're going to make a small bit of interest, but it's not a whole lot. But however, they are helping people in the community. Now, there are spin-off opportunities there because I know since I've got involved, I've started the bank with the credit union as a way of thanks. And I know if someone helped my mom and dad or my brother or sister and I needed a car loan or I needed a new kitchen, I'm going to go back to the credit union because they're the ones to help my family. So there is spin-off opportunity for the credit unions if they've helped someone.
And can someone just go and I don't know if it's turned into a credit union chat, but can someone just go and open up a credit union account like just before the surgery and get available that way?
Yeah, of course they could.
Yeah, okay.
And again, we are getting new customers for credit unions from that point of view as well. But yes, you'd have to be in a couple of weeks, you know what I mean, before your surgery.
I've had a credit union account since I was about 13. I remember getting a loan from the credit union to go for my leaving cert holiday.
Really? Yeah. Wow. Have you paid it back?
Just about.
But no, it's phenomenal. And without them, we sort of wouldn't be able to do this because people wouldn't be able to have access to the funds.
Okay, yeah. So it's all the financial part is so important, isn't it? And the people know that that's secure.
Important. And it's there for them, you know, and it's there for them. And the credit union will engage with them, you know. They're brilliant. I've got built up some great relationships with credit unions around the country.
Okay.
So the whole, everything's there for you. Everything's done for you. You know, and that's the thing. That's why people think, you know, it's too good to be true or it's not real because especially in Ireland, like you have to battle for everything, you know, and I've learned that again talking about my dad. You have to battle. We don't have to battle for. All you have to do is answer a few emails from us, keep us in the loop, you know, get certain documents when we ask for them. Generally, we get all the paperwork for you and it's just a matter of signing stuff. And we'll pick you up at the airport and we'll have you fixed. We'll have you home. We had a young fella over, must be a year ago, and I think he was 24, come off his motorbike, did his ACL in his knee, and he was told he wouldn't get seen to for about 8 months here. He'd have to stay off work. he found us, and within 3 weeks he was back at work. He came over for arthroscopy, just a little keyhole surgery, and fixed it. So it's not just knee replacement; they do knee construction and ACL tears and stuff, which are quite common.
Do they do psychiatric care?
No.
And would they consider doing that? Because the mental health services here are shocking.
Well.
And particularly if you're trying to access care for a child with needs, or is there any?
No.
And would you not? Right there, business plan, Paul. Would there be any way that they would consider that, or is that a workaround at all?
I think there's a bigger picture there. It's not as easy just bringing someone to a hospital and putting a new hip or a new knee.
Yeah, okay. It's almost like you're bringing them over there to fix them, whereas psychiatric care involves continuous support. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's much bigger than that.
I was even thinking, Zoom or here's me now going.
Yeah. Well, get in there. Yeah. No, it's not yet.
Okay.
Never say never, but not yet.
Okay. So on a lighter note, how are the dogs?
They're fantastic. Yeah, they keep busy out around them today. They don't mind. They'll bring you out in all weather. Unfortunately, fortunately, I have 3 of them, but my wife and my children made me keep one of the offspring as well. So 2 is enough. 3 is crazy.
That's mental. I've 1, and Jesus.
Look, they're good fun. Luckily, I live up the mountains a bit, so there's a bit of space to run them around.
Yeah.
Up early in the morning when there's no one around.
I must bring Carlo up now to see his mum and dad and his brother sometime over the summer. We'll do that.
Definitely.
Okay, Paul. I think you've given a good bit of information. Okay. How do people contact you?
So just look.
Want to give out your mobile?
I do give out my mobile. Absolutely. No problem at all. Healthcareabroad.ie
okay
is the best way and easiest way to find us. Just Google Healthcare Abroad.
Okay.
You can Google myself or Paul Byrne if you want to contact you or.
Okay. I'll put all the information in the podcast notes too, and then, in whatever else I put out in social media.
We'll chat line there, or just give us a call. As I said, one of the team, there's 5 of us there, take up the calls. You'll talk to myself, Greg, Andrew or Chris, and we'll set you on the right path, explain everything to you, explain the pathway, how it works, how we can help you. And obviously everything is given to you before you leave. Like, you're under the consent form sometimes people find funny, but we have to do that for GDPR. We have to keep it legal. We have to... I have to get a consent to be able to send you information and to engage with your GP and your credit union. And that's required, but you're under no obligation. You can come and talk to us. Like, we do have people come over just for diagnostics. They might not necessarily have the treatment, So I have someone over there and he's getting his bladder and his knee and his shoulder looked at. I've had some people come over and had the hip done 1 week and then gone down to Alicante to the Visam hospital we have there, which is a phenomenal hospital for the eyes. It's 5 stories, all dedicated to the eye. It's an amazing hospital in Alicante. And after getting the hip done, she went down and she got the cataracts done,
And she go off on her hollypops then afterwards.
She stayed a few days, stayed in the warm weather. Again, the warm weather healing in Spain helps, especially with the orthopedic operations, and away she came. So it's all there. It's at your fingertips. It's very, very easy if you know anyone, family member, loved one that's in pain, and that's the biggest thing. There's so many people out there suffering needlessly, and just to note as well, something that I've came across. People have been left so long, especially knees and hips. So what's happening there is it's bone on bone and it's grinding away. That's what's causing the pain. Okay, but because that's happening as well, it's actually causing damage to the bone of the knee or the hip, and you're putting a prosthetic into that. You're actually making that a more difficult operation because it's damaged. So the sooner you get that fixed, the better for everything, for you, for your rehab, for your recovery, everything.
Well, sure, even the toil on your mental health that pain brings. Sure, we see every day the chronic, what chronic pain does to someone's mental health, sense of self,
everything,
relationships. Like, you were a moany old bugger when you were
for at least an hour. The only other thing I probably should mention is not every single surgery is 100% refunded by the HSE. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So knees and hips are. Some surgeries have what they call a co-payment. All right. Mm-hmm. And again, all that information is given to you before you travel anywhere. So you know exactly how much it's going to cost you and you know exactly how much you're going to get back. Cataracts have a co-payment of, I think it's €120 per eye. Why? I won't get into explaining to you.
I do. Go on. Should we have those time?
A quick overview. So the HSE have a coding system for every operation in Ireland. Okay, it's called a DRG coding list. Beside that, they have a code. The code relates to a certain amount of money. This actually reflects back to us as well. And people say, oh, can I go up to Northern Ireland? No, Northern Ireland is a grey area. It's not referral led, it's pre-approval. So people have to go up to Northern Ireland, see the consultant, pay the consultant up there anything between 220 and 290 sterling, okay? They'll have to buy something in the shop to prove that they were up there. I know this sounds a bit daft, but that's, you're proving to the HSE that you travelled, you had the surgery, you paid for yourself and you came home. Okay, that's more or less the 4 steps in the scheme. So if people go to Northern Ireland, they have to see the surgeon first, then come back down, then go back up, then come back down, then come back up, and come back down, because they can't do, with Brexit, they can't do referral led like we can in Europe. The other problem with Northern Ireland is because we have a bit of clout in our hospitals in Europe, we've gone to them and said, look, we're going to bring you so many patients per week, per month, per year. Can you match what the refund amount is from the HSE? So the HSE for it, again, we go back to our HIP, is 11,500. We've made our hospitals, we've asked the hospitals to match that, okay? If you go to Northern Ireland, they won't match that. So your hip replacement can cost that from 13,000 sterling to 17,000 sterling. So there's going to be a shortfall there of a few €1,000 for you. But with us, because we've negotiated on your behalf, we've matched what the HSE give you back. And that's why it's 100% refunded. My back surgery wasn't 100% refunded. The reason because of that is so many different types of back surgeries. There's neurosurgery, there's dissectomy, microdissectomy, lumbar dissectomy, there's fusion. And because there's so many different options there's not one price fits all.
Okay.
So you will have a co-payment. Now, from memory, I think my operation cost me 9,600 and I think I got 8,300 back. I would have given one of my dogs to be fixed. I used to say one of my children, and people used to look at me quite funny. But like you said, well, I was in so much pain.
It's terrible.
Given any help. Yeah. I had dark days lying there going, what am I going to do? How am I going to get out of this? So there are co-payments for certain procedures and operations. But again, everything is given to you, sent to you in black and white. You know exactly. You'll know where you're going, what hotel you'll be in. We send links to the hospital, send links to the hotel. We'll send links to your surgeon. You'll know who your surgeon is. Everything before you leave. So everything's all given to you. So, look, I remember. It's daunting having an operation, okay? It's daunting going to hospital. No one wants to go to hospital. And then add in the fact that you have to get on a plane and travel to a foreign country, although Spain is nowhere near as foreign in my eyes now after my experience. So we try and make that so much easier for you by having everything ready. All your documents, everything ready, all the information is key there. Give people the information. And when you arrive then at Alicante, we look after you. Or Valencia, you don't have to be Alicante. I always say Alicante, be flying to Valencia as well. We pick you up and you're under our care, we're looking after you. And when you arrive into the hotel, especially in Denia, because it's a 2-week program for mostly hips and knees, there's a great support area, typical Irish. They're all down at the bar or at the pool. They've been there a week before. So that when you arrive in there, there's someone that's a week into their surgery. And it's like a support group. Okay. They all sit down. What are you here for? I'm here for a hip. I'm here. I had mine done last week. And, conversations start. Okay. And I've seen it, the minute you arrive there, you can see the fear drain out of people. And I didn't actually finish my story about that lady in Clonmel.
Go on.
So she was really unsure, but she had no choice. She said, I have to do it. And she said, when she was told that she didn't have to pay up front, she thought, if I don't have to pay up front, surely there's no, do you know what I mean? There's no scam here. No one's robbed my money. The internet, everyone thinks it's a scam. So she had the money ready on her debit card and she was still really, really, really afraid. And she arrived over to Alicante anyway, and Suzanne, one of our drivers, picked her up and she was in the healthcare abroad top and jacket and hat and everything. And the lady from Clonmel just burst out crying. When she met Suzanne, she just knew, this is real. This is real. I'm going to get help. And she absolutely collapsed. Suzanne they're actually still friends. They still actually text each other and stay in touch, But I have so many good stories like that,
And is this mainly for people that don't have health insurance then? So if someone has health insurance over here, they can still go and they can do it under this scheme. Because even with health insurance here, they may not be guaranteed.
No, and there is waiting lists for certain stuff now in the private sector. As well, I've noticed, I've talked to a few patients the last while, that some of the operations that the private health section are offering, they'll only pay 80 or 85% of the operation as well. That's a new thing that's sneakily leaked into private health insurance.
Okay,
yeah, that's a new one. So that you're not going to get 100. You're not going to. It's going to cost you a certain amount. Not all, but there is a few I've noticed the last while come in.
And are you dealing only with Spain? Is there any other countries that you deal with at all?
So,
other than sorry, you did mention another one.
Bucharest, Bucharest, Romania for endometriosis. We have one in Portugal and one in Holland, but again, it's mostly Spain. Spain is because the healthcare system, and the German ones for Lyme disease, it's hugely expensive. The refund isn't great, but if someone wants it, we can help them out there. But no, it's Spain. Spain, we have from anywhere from Madrid, Elche, Vinalopó, Benidorm, Denia, Alicante. We're actually as well, people would be interested. We're in talks with some hospitals in Malaga, because a lot of Irish people have places in Malaga and that side of Spain. So we have Malaga as well on offer. So constantly growing, constantly adding hospitals and surgeons as well. And again, back to that, we've done all the background on the hospitals and on the surgeons. We've made sure that they fit the criteria. So everything we've done is all checked. So you're going to a really good surgeon and a really good hospital.
And they're HSE approved then, are they, as a result? Okay. Yeah. Okay, well, there you go. Well, I hope people find that interesting. I think people will find that really interesting. And that's why I brought you on, because I had no idea of it myself. How is your back now? Is
fantastic.
Is it like 100% or?
100%, absolutely 100%. The best thing I ever did. I wish I probably had did it years ago. I mightn't have had to be. So they did a microdissectomy on me. It was easy enough, to be quite honest with you. They went in, and even how the surgeon explained it, I'll never forget, because like I said, I've been going to physios, chiropractors, all sorts. So he said that obviously your vertebrae, and then you've little sort of bark of a tree. So if you had a log of a tree, say your log you put on a fire, they sit between your vertebrae as shock absorbers, okay?
Yeah.
And he said outside of the log is the bark, inside that is toothpaste, okay? He says when you compress your back too much or hurt your back, the bark on the log breaks and the toothpaste oozes out, right? Okay. So he said, and that's what a bulging disc is. He said lots of people could have bulging discs. Most people do, because everyone's sitting around more now. He said, but if it sits on a nerve or touches on a nerve, that's when it causes the issue. So he said that what they do is, as well, the toothpaste that comes out is made of the same stuff as your tendons, so there's no blood flow there. So it can't repair itself, can't heal. So once it oozes out, it's out. It's not going to repair. So they go in and they cut off what was oozed out. They cut that off, they repaired the log. And then what they did was they pared some of my vertebrae where my nerves were, pared away some of the bone there to give the nerves more room to freely move my lower back. And so as I said, 5th of November, back playing golf in January, and I have not looked back. Now I do look after myself, I'm not as stupid as I was, but then that comes with
the age. No,
older, doesn't it? You know what I mean? So there's a bit of that. I wouldn't call it knowledge. It's maybe stupidity when I was younger. I don't do silly things. Not all the time. I still do.
That's not what cause.
Yeah, I know. I just think I was doing in the garden last week. But I do sort of look after a bit. No, back playing golf. I've never looked back.
Okay.
Back. Honestly, thanks to Chris, his team, and Healthcare Abroad, and me being there with him now as well. And we have a fantastic team that we've built up over the last year. Greg, Katrina, Chris, the whole lot. We've super gangs.
Do you any pharmacists?
We might do. And the weather's good.
Paul, I always ask my guests 2 questions. I did warn you. You got the text. Oh, yeah. So what advice would you give young people today?
My advice to a young person is education is key to an easier life. That would be my advice. Education. And
any particular form of education? Like, are you talking formal, or are you just talking like knowledge in general?
Knowledge in general. Yeah, but no, get an education.
Yeah.
Get an education. You can go anywhere in education.
Okay, and then what is the meaning of life?
I was thinking about this one, and I had an answer, because I know I was talking to you last week, and then I forgot the answer. And then I was thinking, you had a really good answer to this. And then I was actually in the car today driving, I was going, what's the meaning of life? I was going, what's the meaning of meaning? So it's, you make life whatever you want it to be. You're the meaning of life, so it's whatever what you want it to mean. So my best advice for meaning of life is you have to live it, and it's all about, it's never too late to do anything. Look at me, I've changed completely, went full circle. So the meaning of life is make it more meaningful.
I love it. Paul, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Super. Thank you, Laura. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.